You're joining us. My name is Lauren Phillips. I am the International Student and Scholar Advisor at IUP. So we're very lucky today to have a great panelist with us. First, I do want to say that Emma Archer and Jessica Dories will be assisting in the chat. So if you do have questions, throughout the session, please feel free to ask them in the chat. If you would like to ask them out loud, we will be having we'll be having a question and answer session right at the end also. So first I want to introduce Dr. Michelle Petrucci. She's the AVP of International Education and Global Engagement, and she's the Executive Director of the American Language Institute at IUP. We have Dr. John Pagnucci. He is the chair of the English department here at IUP. We have Mohammed Al-Arjani from Saudi Arabia, and he's currently doing his master's in human resources and employer relations. We have Dr. Begonia Bolota Vasquez from Spain, doing her PhD in literature and criticism. And Dr. Tong Zhang from China, doing her PhD in composition and TESOL. So I do want to turn it over to Dr. Petrucci. She'll be talking about the current situation with COVID and what IUP is doing to ensure students.
Hi, good morning and good afternoon and good evening to all of you. I'm Dr. Michelle Petrucci, and it's my pleasure to be here and to welcome you to this unexpected Zoom series that we've put together in response to COVID-19 and to what we are all experiencing across the world. It's wonderful to see that we have people who have applied, have confirmed, who are interested in IUP from all over the world and in a variety of academic programs. So welcome, we're glad to see you here with us, and we hope to see you face-to-face very soon. As you all know, and we're all experiencing, this is probably the craziest time as a world that any of us that are alive have experienced. And so it's challenging for everyone. And it's full of a lot of ambiguity, uncertainty, and there are many unknowns and factors that we as individuals and even as institutions cannot control. But we want you to know that we're aware of many of the obstacles and hurdles that it'll be for you to come to the United States. And we want you to know that it's going to be worth it once you get here, and that we're here to help and support you. We know that the embassies and consulates, the U.S. embassies and consulates are closed. Some of them are starting to make appointments, but many of them are going to be delayed appointments. There's pressure from our professional organization of international educators to put on the U.S. Department of State for them to at least open Zoom interviews to start vetting and reviewing, but so far we haven't received approval for that from the U.S. Department of State. We also know that some countries, there are travel bans that are still in place to the U.S. We do know that with Canada, although the border is closed, students are considered essential travel, and they're allowed to cross the border. We also know that there are flight limitations, that even if you have a visa in hand, you may not be able to get a flight to get here in time. So we know that there are many factors that are beyond your control, and we are working, we want to work with you. We just want to keep in communication so that you know your options, whether it's to defer or to start online and virtually in the fall, or to wait. So we just want to give you all those options. But I can let you know that IUP has made the decision at this juncture, at this point, that we will be primarily going face-to-face in the fall in a hybrid mode, which means that some components will be online. They're busy, everyone's busy working to figure out what that all means for the actual academic classes. And for grad programs, the courses are usually have a smaller enrollment, so I think that the face-to-face will be increased compared to the undergraduates. IUP is going to, of course, increasing the hygiene and the cleaning protocols. The social distancing will be required. Pennsylvania, we're still wearing masks. But just so you know, Indiana is located about an hour northeast of Pittsburgh, which is the biggest city near to us. And we are very fortunate that being in a rural area, we've had very few cases. And we've only had 5 deaths, and the 5 deaths all occurred in a nursing care home, one nursing care homes, which is very unfortunate and very tragic. But as a broader community, I think that we have continued to be quite safe, and we're hoping that we're not going to see any spikes like some of the other states. Texas and Florida and Arizona right now are seeing some spikes. They may have opened too quickly. I really appreciate our governor of our state. He's been conservative in his approach to COVID-19 and has listened to medical doctors and scientists about the best way to proceed. So we are continuing to move forward in preparations for face-to-face orientation at the end of August, but we want you to know what options there are for you, and also the impact on your academic experience if you do some virtual or face-to-face. So with that, I would like to turn it over back over to Lauren to start with the panel and with Dr. Pagnucci. But again, welcome, and I really do look forward to seeing you hopefully this fall, if not then in January. So, but everybody keep safe. That's the main important thing. Okay, thanks.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. So let's get to know our panelists a little bit more. There we go. So starting with Dr. Pagnucci, obviously you don't have a major, but introduce yourself and just say what it is that you do at IUP.
Sure. I'm Dr. Pagnucci. I'm chair of the English department at IUP. I also teach in our doctoral program. It's actually composition and applied linguistics now. We were composition and TESOL, and we've switched the name a couple of years ago now. And I teach mostly courses on technology, on composition theory, and on narrative inquiry as a research method. I also will say I sort of oversee all the issues, so some of the planning concerns that Dr. Petrucci was talking about fall under my area of concern as well. And I'm from the United States, although I have been to Taiwan and Europe and a number of other countries.
Great, thank you so much. Mohammed, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Mohammed Al-Arjani. My major is Human Resources and Employment Relation, and from Saudi Arabia.
Dr. Begonia Balota Vasquez, can you please introduce yourself?
My name is Begonia Balota Vasquez. I'm a graduate of the Literature and Criticism program here at IUP. And I also teach Spanish and English here, and I supervise a tutoring program at the American Language Institute, and I'm from Spain.
And Dr. Tong Zhang, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Tong Zhang. I'm from China. I am studying at the Composition and Applied Linguistics program. It's a doctoral program which is the oldest and the largest second language literacy program in the United States. And I recently passed my dissertation defense, so I'm a new doctor in this panel. And also, this has been my 7th year in Indiana. So yeah, it's a great honor to meet everyone virtually.
Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to get started into the panel discussion. So could all of you share some more about your program? and how you would describe, you know, typical classroom professor engagement. Dr. Pagnucci, can we start with you?
Sure. So typically for graduate courses, I think this is true probably across the United States, but definitely at IUP and in the English department in particular. So most of the courses are built around discussion. So you're assigned a variety of readings, and I like to tell grad students, both master's and doctoral students, it's going to be a lot of reading. Like that's what we have you do is read, read, read. And I think even the jump between master's and doctoral, the reading levels just go up, the requirement. So the coursework focuses a lot on discussing all those readings that you're doing. There are usually mini lectures by the professor, but most of it is built around small group discussion followed by kind of a full class discussion. Sometimes there'll also, in the English department, be a lot of writing activities. So students might be asked to write a reflection about some of the material or to think about some key questions and then write about those and then use those as a basis for the discussion to keep things focused. And the professors often will pull up materials on, you know, one of our projection screens so that you can sort of focus in on a direct quote by an author, that type of thing. Now, thinking ahead to this fall, this is not that all of that normally occurs in a classroom face to face, but this fall we certainly are expecting that lots of international students won't be able to join us in person, so we're making plans for that. We like to call it the IUP Hawk Flex model, which is a combination of face-to-face and online experience. We'll likely use Zoom within a class, so we might have some students sitting in an actual classroom at IUP, but additional international students or just other students who couldn't attend face-to-face will be connecting through Zoom, so you'll get some interaction that way. And you know, the small groups might be using the breakout feature, which is one of the features you can use with Zoom. There'll also be more online components with every course. So that means all the readings will get posted. There'll be links to key, you know, videos and other kinds of information, PowerPoints uploaded, just to make sure that all the materials that you might need for the class beyond, you know, required textbooks and so on, that all that stuff is available in one place. We also use an online learning management system called D2L. It's similar to Canvas and Blackboard. A lot of you may have experienced one or the other. They're all pretty similar. So we might also use that for online discussion. So in that case, the professor posts, you know, a couple of discussion questions. Everyone goes into the same area and posts replies, and then you can reply to your classmates, and the professor can jump in on those discussions. A lot of that stuff happens virtually, so or asynchronously. So instead of everyone having to meet at the same time and place, it might be spread out, you know, throughout the week or throughout the day. And we're very aware, you know, we were joking about good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We're quite aware that if you are attending from another place, it could be midnight. I taught a course this summer. A student was in China, so he was 12 hours ahead. We would hold a synchronous session at 11 a.m. It was 11 p.m. for him, so I had to be aware of that. What that means is that professors will make adjustments so that, you know, we might have some optional synchronous meetings, but we'll also have some online stuff to take place of that. We want to make sure everybody gets a full experience. And I think finally that a lot of the assessment is built around response to primarily to the papers that you would write for the courses. And so you're getting that direct professor feedback, even if they're not sitting with you in, you know, face-to-face in the classroom. They can still comment on your work and then schedule a synchronous meeting, a Zoom meeting with you when that's going to work. So that's kind of the broad picture. And I can turn it over to the other panelists who might want to add in or talk about how it really works.
So Mohammed, would you like to share?
Yeah, I would just add that as in my program, it's like, you know, one of the programs that deal with employment and labor relation. And in our class, we would have people, it will be divided into people attending in class, and some of the people students will attend in Zoom. And we'll have this kind of sharing experience between students who will be able to being engaged in class, and also we would engage the students who will be in screen in Zoom. And that's kind of an experience that we have in our college. And I think that's the kind of engagement that would expected to be even this during this time, or some students will be attending abroad.
Thank you. Begonia?
If I had to describe the literature and criticism program, or the Lit and Crit program, I would describe it with the word intense, which it is, because there is lots and lots of reading due every single day that you have a class. But that also means that you are learning every single day, that you are doing class-related activities, which is every single day of the week, by the way. So yeah, there is a lot of reading, there's a lot of learning, and you get a very, very comprehensive understanding of literatures around the world. And that's very, very valuable for you as a scholar, but also as a future instructor or professor. So there are also literature and writing pedagogy classes that you can take that are going to be very valuable for you in the future, because they teach you about expectations in the classroom when you are the instructor. So those are fantastic too. And for your experience, you also get teaching opportunities. Usually if you take those literature and writing pedagogy courses, you get a chance to guest teach in professors' classes, and that gives you fantastic opportunities to learn from them. As to the level of engagement between professors and students, I could say that because classes are not very big, you get a lot of interaction with professors. You get opportunities to have very interesting conversations about class materials. And that means that your in-depth knowledge of whatever you are whatever you are studying is fantastic.
Thanks. Tom, would you like to share?
Sure. I think Dr. Pagnucci and Begonia has been talking about two wonderful programs in English department. And as one member from the composition and applied linguistics, I will say one thing really attracted me from our program is the diversified learning community, which means you are not just learning from your students from the United States, you are also learning from your peers all over the world. And that's one thing really attracts me in this program. Also, I have been very into our program's agenda about training our students as teacher scholar. And I think we have been many great opportunity working as a teaching assistants, and also the graduate assistants to enrich your expertise as a teacher scholar. And in terms of the professor engagement, I will say our professors, faculty, staff are very supportive in helping you establish your professionalism and also help you to develop your research experiences. And for me, myself, I have been into many, of course, our graduate level classes, and those professors are very supportive for you to conduct research or collaborate with students and faculties. So those are the things has been very helpful and supportive in my learning path.
Thank you so much. So there's a lot of different opportunities at IUP for professional development and internships. So I would really like the panel to discuss some of that now. So Dr. Pagnucci, can you talk about different opportunities within your department?
Just letting a truck outside pass by because it was roaring its engine. Sure, be happy to talk about that. So Tong mentioned a little of this. One of the primary opportunities are graduate assistantships. And I think that's true not only in the English department, but pretty much across all the graduate programs at IUP. And that's usually a chance to just work one-on-one with a professor. You might be doing a research project for them. You might be doing some course, related research. So it might be finding some articles or, Xeroxing things, preparing materials, talking about the course. Some faculty like to have graduate assistants sit in on the course just to take part in discussion. Sometimes that's happening. You might be sitting in on an undergraduate course, learning about teaching methods. That's a pretty common thing that we like to do. There are internship opportunities. I don't know if these are only graduate students in attendance today, but we do have internships. Often that's more common at the undergrad level, and might be working with a professor or with, at a law firm or a library or a professional organization. Some of those are online now, these types of internships. We also have done teaching internships. So sometimes, especially in the master's program, if a student doesn't have teaching experience, there might be an internship where you're out in the field, maybe working with a practicing teacher, observing or sitting in a classroom, assisting with, attendance and response to student papers and that kind of thing. So there's that type of opportunity. Also, we have then teaching opportunities. Those can be both teaching assistantships or teaching associateships, or it might be working as a temporary faculty member. Depends on enrollments and what we need, but lots of students like Tung Begonia have taught for us. And so that's a common thing. People also teach at the American Language Institute. So there are lots of different ways that people get teaching experience. I think most of the graduate programs across IUP are looking to prepare people to become future teachers. So that's, a big part of what we like to provide opportunities for. And maybe one other thing to mention is there are a lot of opportunities for conference presentations, for publications. We have a history of professors and students co-writing pieces together, collaborating on presentations, even at the large international, whether that's the TESOL conference or the National Council of English Teachers Conference, the 3Cs conference, all the big conferences, but also local conferences. And we have a number of organizations that put on local conferences for us, including there is a Graduate Scholars Forum that takes place each spring. Again, that's across the discipline. So it's a nice chance not only to meet maybe people if you're in English or one of the, education areas, but in any of the different programs. We have about, I believe, 11 or 12 different doctoral programs at IUP. So that gives you some sense.
Great, thank you so much. Mohammed, would you like to discuss different opportunities that you've taken advantage of at IUP?
Yeah, sure. I actually had a great advantage of being a graduate assistant at the Office of International Education. Was really good experience to be in a diverse environment, working with the students, helping them, and also leading some of the international programs at the OIE. And also one of the things that I just recently get accepted is to have an internship with the American Red Cross, working with disaster workforce engagement. Actually, this is a volunteer job. I was hoping to get experience working with them, doing some related job on my major, which I'll be leading some of the volunteer team, being in just working with their training and make sure that they would do their job with our team. So these one of the two things that I'm just excited to maybe share with the students.
Great, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Begonia, would you like to share?
Yeah, I would like to add some details to what Dr. Panucci and Mohammed were talking about, because I took advantage of so many things in my time as a student at the IUP Leading Great program, and there were professional development opportunities. We had workshops on job interviews, how to present yourself in a job interview, how would you how could you make sure you stand out in a pool of candidates, or resume writing, or even job searches, how to do an effective job search. So those were very, very useful. As a TA with Dr. Susan Comfort, I had such a wonderful experience because she, at the moment, was working on editing an issue of the department journal. And that gave me such a wonderful opportunity to experience that part of the profession, which sometimes you don't get a chance until you are already established and you are part of a department, but not as a student. As a TA, I learned a lot. It takes a long time to build your teaching persona, and I'm still working on that, but getting a chance as a TA to have those bi-weekly meetings with mentors, that helped a lot. It did, because that's something that you need to experience firsthand if possible. And those mentor-mentee relationships that we could create in those meetings were very, very helpful. So yeah, there are plenty of opportunities, lots of opportunities. I would just say, if you get a chance, try and be part of all of them, because they are so helpful.
Great, thank you. Tom, can you talk about professional development and various other opportunities that you've had at IUP?
Sure. Actually, I think Dr. Pagnucci and Begonia has explained it very thoroughly and covered all the professional development opportunities in the English department. And for me, I really appreciate the graduate assistantship and the teaching assistantship that I had in English department. Those things helped me better training myself as a teacher scholar, and also extend my vision of seeing myself as a teacher scholar in teaching English writing. And I would like to say, and for myself, I have been engaged in funding professional development opportunities. So there, I start with tutoring at the American Language Institute. So at the very beginning of my studying, I will say that's also a wonderful opportunity for people who want to have sort of a tutoring teaching experiences with international students, especially international community. And I will also say we have a pretty great writing center, and they are hiring tutors for training our students to help other students to develop their writing ability and improving their writing performance. I would say that also been a wonderful opportunity for international students who are seeking for internships and professional development. Yeah, and also the job placement workshop has been very helpful, at least in my point of view. So yeah, that's all the professional development opportunity I have experienced.
Great, thank you so much. So one thing that we do want to touch on in this session is the different resources that students can utilize. So Dr. Pagnucci, what advice would you give to prospective international students about how they can make the most of their time here and the different academic resources that are available to them?
Sure, and I noticed there was a question one student had about coping with the quantity of reading, so that's probably worth saying a word about because it is one of the adjustments. I think one thing is, because we have lots of international students at IUP across all the various programs, faculty are used to expecting differences in world English use. So no one is expecting that you'll speak or write as a native English speaker might speak. You know, there's going to be variation there. And that means, you know, you can expect to communicate, but we want to hear your voice, hear your words. And you don't have to necessarily stress about having perfect English. We're looking for world Englishes. So there's different ways of communicating all across the world in English. I think in terms of the reading, what we really want you to do, it's not essential to understand every single word in an article or to be translating every word into your native language in order to read it. It's to try and get the gist of the article, to get the main ideas there. And so one of the things I always encourage graduate students, you know, if you're struggling with some of the readings, first bring those to the class discussion, but also feel free. All the faculty members have regular office hours. We've been doing those through Zoom so that you can meet, even if you're not here in person, you'll have an opportunity to meet with a faculty member. And so you can just meet and say, I've read this article, but I'm a bit confused about these ideas. Could we talk a little about that? That's a great opportunity to interact with your professor and get some feedback. I think it also, another thing is, whether it's a Zoom meeting or face-to-face, I really encourage students, international students, to speak up, to be part of the discussion. Often those small groups report back to the large class, and don't just let the American students do the talking. Get in there and say, well, let me try, practice your English. That works as well in Zoom as it does in the face-to-face classroom. We like to hear international voices. Tung was mentioning how diverse these programs are. It's one of the joys of teaching here is there are people from all over the world and all over the United States. So, get your voice heard. We don't want you to just be silent. And then I certainly hope, as Dr. Petrucci said at the beginning, this fall, we're going to deal with safety first. We want to make sure that everybody is safe, that we do social distancing, that you get, that you can get your education and not have to worry about COVID. At the same time, I'm hopeful that even if the fall is a lot of online, probably by spring we'll have more people here. And we really would want you to come to IUP and have that chance to sort of experience U.S. life. It's all crazy all over the world right now with COVID, but also to get a sense of what it's like. We will be planning some activities in our program, some virtual events. In fact, there is a discussion tonight, just as an example. We have a film professor who's talking about a film that deals with racism and systemic racism issues. That's going to be a virtual discussion. So that kind of thing, we've often would do those in a classroom face-to-face, but as we're adjusting to the COVID situation, we're taking some of that online. We've had what we call virtual lit night, which are these poetry readings that take place. They used to take place in a coffee shop. Now, again, we're doing those online. So you're going to get some of those experiences that we would hope to give you face-to-face. We'll just find some new ways to do those things.
Thank you very much. So Mohammed, can you give us some advice that you would give to prospective international students? Maybe talk about some challenges that you yourself have faced at IUP and how you've overcome that, and resources that you would recommend.
Sure. Yeah, I would say that I have joined IUP in my undergrad. That was back in 2010. Was really a big thing that for me, leaving home, going to ES for first time. So classroom and campus for me is really different. There's different experience for me. And I would say engaging with students and being able to be part of the community, part of IUP, trying to make friends and try to engage with the new learning style, I would say, different from home. And also some of the challenges I would face is, of course, English. At that time, I would say writing in English or doing an assignment in English would be really a little tough for me. So I had some challenges on this. I would use a writing center, which is really a great resources for students to start writing. And also this is even open for grad students. They have a graduate editor center where students will have some support and there's workshops that they can attend to make sure they would do the writing in the way that it will be academic and in a graduate level. So I think that's one of the support and things that I would use for students, and maybe I recommend it for them.
Thank you. Begonia, how about you?
Oh, well, I'm going to add a couple different things to what people have already said, because I think what Mohammed was saying is just very useful. The Writing Center is just your friend. Because with me, at least, I remember having challenges because the expectations in writing when you arrive here are different from what I was taught in Spain. So organization, structure, the way you write a paper are very different from what you do here. So learning those kinds of basics is very useful. So that's something that I would do from day one. Try to learn about the expectations and how you can do good writing, because I got wonderful help from professors, but that daily work that you can do with the writing center people is very useful in the from day one, like I said. And then the library is also your friend because they are very fast and the catalog is very good. And then they have this interlibrary loan service that you can use. They have Policy, which is similar to interlibrary loan, but with more local libraries that can bring you books super fast that you can use for your research and your classes. So yeah, there are fantastic services that you can use here. Something that I would advise to future students, and particularly from the Lit and Grit program, which is the program that I know best, is manage your time. There is lots of reading to do. And yeah, the professors are very helpful. But at the end of the day, the better prepared you are for a class, the better your contributions are going to be, and the better you're going to feel every single day, and your self-confidence is going to get better and better. So what I would do is you're going to feel overwhelmed at first. I'm not going to lie to you. There is lots to do. But once you are in the swing of things and you see how much you can get done every day and how much you can read and write every single day, you feel better and better. So yeah, work every single day. That's an expectation in the American college system. Every single day you have to work every single day. And that's something that I wasn't used to, the level of work you have to do every single day. And you get used to it. It's hard at first, but yeah, work hard every single day.
All right, thank you so much. Tom, would you like to offer some of your?
I will say for our prospective international students, first of all, congratulations. And you're in a very supportive community now. And so now enjoy your learning. And since Dr. Pagnucci, Mohammed, and Begonia has given a lot of advice on how to get support at IUP, I'll just add a few things. So I think while you are, no matter what program you are in, you probably may have some challenges when you are doing research. And we have a very good sources called ARL, Applied Research Lab, which offers different levels of advice for students and faculty conducting research at IUP. And they have been really great for giving students advice and helping students to develop their research projects. And that's something I have benefited a lot from our university. And the second thing is, I think the biggest resource you can have and always have is your faculty and the cohort members. No matter what program you are in, they are always supportive. They are always willing to hear your concern. I have to say, among my years at a composition and the Black linguistic program, I get so much supportive advice from my faculty member and cohort members. And I learned the most from them. And I think those are the things going to support me later on. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, so before we go to the questions that popped up in the chat, I just want to remind everyone that we do have 2 other sessions. We have some information on travel and immigration. That's going to be on July 7th, and some information on life in the US and in Indiana on July 21st. So if Jessica and Emma would like to tell us any questions that showed up in the chat, that would be great.
It's Amber 2 here one more time. I know we did answer a lot of the questions in the chat. We'll be taking questions too, so if you want to raise your hand Some of the questions that we did see come up had information in there about graduate assistantships. So I know we talked a lot about the experiential learning and the opportunities that you get within your program. While we had representatives from some programs, we didn't have all today. So I would definitely reach out to your program coordinator, and if you need help finding their contact information, just let us know. They can talk about those opportunities and some additional of what's going on within the programs. Also, there was a question at the very end of, you know, the COVID and the impact, and I know Dr. Petrucci did talk about this in the beginning a little bit, but it's definitely, I would reach out to those program coordinators too to see what your options are, because each program is kind of navigating this a little bit differently. So some might be able to help provide Zoom for the beginning portion. Some might be bringing you in the spring. Some you might want to defer to the following fall. So we can get you in touch with your program coordinator, but they can help to set out that academic plan for you. And then our offices in grad admissions and then Office of International Education can help to support as we transition your application to that new term and get you your new updated documents and things like that. So I know there was, I think that might cover most of the questions that had been in there, but again, like Lauren had said, if anyone else has any new questions, please feel free to either type in the chat box, or you can raise your hand and we'll kind of go through and answer those.
And I think our panelists were reading the chat as we went along, so a lot of the questions were answered as we were going.
And maybe just so people who entered the Zoom a little bit late, it is being recorded and it will be sent out and shared. So maybe some of the questions will be answered in more detail through the recording.
It might be worth just mentioning, I know the one student had a question about some application materials that they can't get access to right now because of COVID and the lockdown. I think there are probably other students in that kind of situation. We're anxious to get you here to IUP to begin a degree program. So I think normally the person in charge of each program has a coordinator who handles admission issues, who handles graduate assistantships. I would reach out directly to that person. You might have applied to, use the IUP graduate application system, but I would just go to the website for the program you're looking at. There'll be a coordinator listed, or just a secretary. We have a general graduate English email that goes to our secretary, who would route it to the appropriate coordinator. But that's where you could ask that kind of question, say, here's the problem. I can't get this particular transcript or material. They might be able to waive that. They might be able to just, let you begin on a delay, or they might just have you to defer to spring or fall. There are lots of different ways, but, we're anxious and we know that things just aren't operating the way they normally have. So we're making some exceptions and so on. So I think don't get discouraged. Just keep pushing and send an email out. Faculty, it's summertime, so they're checking pretty regularly their email. Those secretaries are at work each day, so they'll make sure you get an answer pretty quickly. Although sometimes there is a little bit more of delay in the summer than there might be during the regular academic year. But we're anxious to get you here virtually and then eventually in person so you can see our fabulous campus.
It looks like there was just a question in the chat too, saying, assuming that we're enrolling for fall 2021, we should be fine with being in the States, trusting that COVID would have subsided. And that's definitely what we're hoping. I think we're all hoping this is ending sooner than later. So I think 2021, we should be great. You don't know what's going to happen. And like you said, trusted that COVID subsides and everything like that. But as soon as we can get our students on campus, that's what we plan to do. So if you would like to, I know Dr. Pagnucci talked about that a little bit, but if you'd like to kind of tour campus, we do have a virtual tour. So if you've not done that, that's a really cool way to see our campus before you get here. Some of the things like the Oak Grove, if you've not been to Pennsylvania before, just getting to see the trees and just the whole campus in general. It's beautiful. So do take a look at that. And then once you do get to campus again, we can always show you around when you get here. So.
I would say, just to that question of where we'll be by fall 2021, certainly there's lots of push for some sort of vaccine to be developed, and I'm sure that'll be widely distributed once that's the case. So that'll be something we'll be looking at. But we'll certainly be taking precautions as we go, and if we need to make adjustments for spring 2021 or fall 2021, the university will do that. We're going to respond to the latest, health information, and of course we have public health experts. That we have a whole public health program at IUP, so we're looking at all that stuff to make sure safety is our number one concern, and then getting you a great education is our second concern. So we want to make sure those two things work together. But I will say, we've done a lot of surveys of students, and we just know students really prefer to learn face-to-face. Online learning works, but it's not the preferred experience for people. Mohammed talked about, making friends and connections, and that's really an important part. You're part of a learning community, and that's more difficult in a Zoom environment. So we really want to get you into that face-to-face classroom when we can. But we can do some other things to make sure that works kind of, in the short term. So, but yeah, hopefully by fall of 2021, we're all hoping to be back where we were.
Any other questions for the group?
Do our panelists have any final thoughts, or just anything else that they would like to let prospective and new students know?
Maybe one wrap-up thought is just that you can see we have lots of students attending today, and this is really just a small portion of the overall international population that we have at IUP. So it's a great opportunity. Also, IUP is really represented the world over. The doctoral program in English, both the literature program and the composition and applied linguistics program, we have alumni all over the world, leaders, teachers in various countries. So IUP has a strong reputation in all areas of our graduate education. So you're really joining something that's, a long history of success. And that's good for you professionally because it can lead to all kinds of opportunities. We have people not only go on to become professors or teachers or professional leaders, but also taking part. We've had people who are winning awards internationally. I think that's true of many of the other programs. So you're making a great choice, and I think it's going to propel you where you want to go professionally. And that's the key for graduate education. It's going to take you forward. The training and the education, all that reading leads you to new career opportunities and advancement. So I hope you'll come, and that'll be a great experience for you.
And I just wanted to say, we really are looking forward to having you here face to face. As Dr. Pagnucci said, the learning environment, the community is really what makes American education unique, I believe. And I just want to say to you, don't give up on your hopes or your dreams and your plans to come to the U.S. to pursue this education. We're all dealing with COVID-19, so it's nothing unique for the U.S. or for you in your country. And I know that some of us have more anxiety and stress, and I guess we would take this opportunity to spend time with your family, stay healthy, and you can squirrel away, save some more money for when you do come here and you're able to participate in conferences, research opportunities, and cultural and educational excursions, and we really are looking forward to seeing you, whether it's this August, January, or next August. So just stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you.
You know, there was a question in the chat I see about grades. I might just say something about our expectations in general. I think one of the differences of graduate education versus, say, undergraduate education is that we really, you know, first we expect that everybody does all the reading. Now, it's not that you have to word for word go through every article, but we expect you to understand the basic ideas in each article. Professors also are going to make recommendations for other things to read. It might not be assigned, but they're really expecting that you'll try and pick up some of these additional materials, or at least look at those once the class is finished and you're thinking about your thesis work or your dissertation work. I think we also expect that students will, you know, draft papers and revise those and get feedback, whether that's from the professor or the writing center, or just talking to your peers about your papers and your work. So I think there's an expectation that students will do high quality work. People are at different ability levels, and you know, not everyone necessarily has to get an A for every course or every paper, but we expect you to be trying your best and to do your best to master the material. I also think that really the heart of graduate education is research. So whatever the topic, we expect you to be in the library, whether it's a digital database or in the stacks, finding materials that are relevant to the paper you're working on or the research you're working on, and grounding it in the current discussion in the field. So I think the hope is that the professor is going to guide you to be able to do the kind of work that you need to do. So I know, at least in my courses, I like to look at drafts of students' work and say, this is good, I really need more here, I'm not, you know, I'm confused on this point. So there's a lot of feedback as you go, which hopefully then leads to good grades when the course finishes. And I think somebody was asking about racial incidents. IUP, I mean, there's a real direct commitment to addressing racial issues. We've been fortunate we've had no sort of violent racial issues, nothing like that. And actually, because everyone's gone home, we don't have any real protests taking place at the moment. I think there would have probably been student protests and faculty protests. We have actually a weekly stand against racism that takes place by the library. That's gone on for a couple of years, and that's still current. IUP's president actually, in honor of Juneteenth, which just occurred on Friday, IUP canceled all work, all meetings for the day, just to you know, honor that important holiday that represents the end of slavery in the U.S. And so, you know, there's a real commitment by the administration to address issues. There's a diversity coalition that the president put together, IUP's president put together, to, you know, look at issues and think about how to address things. And so I think we're pretty good about trying to respond to those things. I think what you'll find as a student, each program is very welcoming, and you know, we're used to having diverse student populations, and so that you know, it's a welcoming environment. You know, like anywhere, there are people who are less well-informed, and some people continue to have racist views, unfortunately. But I think in general, the spirit of the faculty and most of the doctoral, and really most IUP students, are great about being very welcoming. People are used to having international students on campus, people from all walks of, and also U.S. nationals, so we have a real diverse student population in general. And that makes for a good, safe learning environment, and a welcoming environment. But I think if, you know, I've been here for 25 or so years. There have been a few incidents, and when things have occurred, the president is quick to step forward and address those, meet with student leaders, take some action if it's needed, make some changes. And we have a number of faculty programs that sort of look at diversity and racial issues and try. So, you know, I think we're doing this. Clearly, it's not a perfect world at all, and there are challenges, but I think we're doing as well as we can, and I think we're very progressive about being an inclusive community.
And just to pick up on what Dr. Pagnucci said, my son, I have an 11-year-old son, and my husband and I participated in a local, was a social justice gathering a couple weeks ago in response to all that's happening in the U.S. And there were about 800 people who attended, and it was extremely peaceful. And we have a very supportive borough chief of police who is about community building. Obviously, enforcement is always a part of a police officer's work and a police department's work, but he has really been working on building ties between the police and the community to show that they're here to protect us, and that they themselves are part of the community. With that said, there are situations that have occurred, as Dr. Pagnucci said, regarding race, sometimes religion. And we have, of course, you have your academic departments that are there to support you. You have your deans of the colleges, which our colleges are within the university. We have 6 academic colleges. You have the Office of International Education. We also have an Office of Social Equity, which helps to review and implement our Title IX, which is a federal regulation that has to do with discrimination and harassment, sexual harassment, discrimination based on race or gender or sexual orientation, etc. So, and of course, we have university police, we have community police. So there are different resources for people to turn to. In our community, we also have many different denominations of Christian churches. We also have an active mosque. We do not have, we have a small active synagogue. We have a small community of Jewish people in our area, but most people will go to Pittsburgh except for high holidays are celebrated here. And for Hindus, we have a big temple in Pittsburgh. So we take it seriously. I would say that the majority of Americans are very open. We are a diverse country, but we are at a very important time in our culture and history. And we are all hopeful that many new improvements for society will be made. And so, as John said, as Dr. Pagnucci said, us celebrating Juneteenth, which is a celebration of and an honoring the end of slavery in the United States, for us to have it as official day, the governor of Pennsylvania came out and said it was an official holiday, but then a few days later for them to say, not only is it an official holiday for the state, it is an official paid holiday where employees of the state, you work for the driver's license, the universities, the road construction, Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, etc. You all have that Friday off to honor that day, and you're going to get paid for it. It is a huge step. We don't have many paid holidays in the United States. I think we have 12 or so. So this was a major statement by our governor, and we hope that it will become a federal, I personally hope that it will become a federal day off. But so we're not perfect, but we keep working on it.
And maybe just to jump in, one more comment. Of course, English professors love to talk, so this is a great forum for me. I will say one thing I always tell international students, you really want to think about yourself as being an ambassador. I love international students to come to IUP. It's important for us to see you. It's important for us to hear you. It's important for us to work at saying your name. You know, we don't have to do everything with standard American English approaches. So really, I think, you know, I don't want you to feel it's a very safe, IUP is a very safe community. This is a small town in Pennsylvania. We're close to Pittsburgh. We're actually close to DC, so you can travel there. So I think somebody was asking about coming. The university starts in January around the 23rd. So sometime late in December or beginning of January is the time to come if you're planning to be here for the springtime. But I think in general, our hope is that you'll come and enrich our community and add your diversity, your culture, and, you know, be sure as a part of your classes to be talking a little about what it's like. So we're always thinking about teaching across the world, and you want to say, yeah, you know, in my country we do things this way. This time of the year is a holiday for us. that really enriches us. And that's the best way, I think, to really address racism. We need to encounter different voices, different Englishes from all over the world, and realize that we're all similar and we're all caring people. It makes a better community overall. So, so I'm hopeful that you'll all be joining us to help enrich IUP and make it even better than it is.
So are there any other questions about IEP or for our panelists? Okay, so I do just want to remind you again about the travel and immigration session and the Life in the US session that we're going to be having later. Please sign up for those. We're really grateful that you took the time out of your day to come to this session today. And we're really hopeful to see you again. And thank you again to our panelists. It was extremely helpful listening to your points of view and your experiences here. And if you have any other questions about your specific programs or specific questions about your immigration and what you would need to do, please feel free to contact our office. Is there anything else?
There is a question in the chat about where to live in the community, and we'll talk about this more in Life in the US too. I think many graduate students live off campus, Joshua. Depends on your situation, and there is housing available on campus, but you would have both options.
I know one thing about housing. I think both are equally good, and you can live very close to campus without being on campus. I think one advantage of on-campus housing was that in terms of refunds, when there were the COVID issues and people had to leave, the university issued refunds for the housing and meal plans. Private, lease, private apartments and so on, they're not going to be bound by the same sort of policies that the university is bound by. So because there's a certain amount of uncertainty, that might make on-campus housing a little more attractive. On the other hand, I think if you want that independence, that we certainly have tons of graduate students who live off campus, and that's worked fine. And you can find a good quiet area to live in and be close. And there's a lot of all kinds of housing available at IUP.
And I'd just like to pop in that unlike undergraduate students have to live the first year on campus, but graduate students do not. And once you see the options for off and on campus, you can compare. And there is a price difference, but as Dr. Pagnucci said, there are some benefits, especially when we ran into COVID-19. But I think it's extremely rare for a graduate student to live on campus. So there are many options, and you do not have to have a car in our town, which is great. Everything's pretty much walking distance, or we also have you have the option to use a bus that runs around town that's free, that goes out to the shopping areas and things like that. So very few, I would say, I don't know what percentage, I don't want to guess, but most international students don't have cars. And when you need a car, sometimes you can rent it just for the weekend, or get a few friends together for that. So just make sure before you sign a contract for housing, whether it's on campus or off campus, that it's really what you want, because people are strict about letting you out of contracts.
Is there anything else?
Well, I was just going to say thank you all so much for taking the time this morning. And if you do have any questions, you can always feel free to email one of us. So at Graduate Admissions or at the Office of International Education, don't hesitate, even like we discussed, reaching out to your program coordinator. So we're all here to help. And we look forward to seeing you, like Lauren said, at the next events and talking with you soon. So thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.